Hey guys, Jason Lawrence here, J-Law Fitness. So today I want to talk about the delts, more specifically the posterior delt. So we're talking like back in this area back here. So in my opinion, the posterior delts are probably one of the hardest muscle groups to really single in on, to really try to, to single out when you're doing different exercises. You work a lot of them anytime you do any kind of back exercise. But there's certain positions we can kind of put the body in, the arms in order to make sure we're really working that posterior delt most efficiently, or I should say inefficiently, as we want that muscle to do the most work. So I'm going to show you a couple different things and kind of show you what I think is the best exercises to really focus in on that posterior delt. Now, to start out, when we're talking about the posterior delt, we're talking about two motions really that it contributes to. So we're talking about extending back of the shoulder, and then we're also talking about doing some like external rotation. So in this neutral plane, this is internal rotation, external rotation. So when we're getting back into that extended position here, we want to get a little bit of external rotation if we can too, to really go through both of those motions that it does in order to get the most effective work to it. Now we do also do sometimes where we're just pulling extension, especially for really heavy loads. But the key is when you're doing back exercises, you're more here with your arms at your side because you're working more of the lats. But when you want to single out and really work just the posterior delt, you really want to get your arms more so they're up, so they're up and not tucked in so much, so that way you can kind of get away from the back and do more of just the posterior delt. So taking all that into consideration, we're going to start here with the incline bench first. And what we're going to do with this one first, you kind of start with the weights down and you're dangling, and what you're going to do is you're going to try to bring this straight up into an extended and externally rotated position, and you're trying to really, that mind muscle connection that I talked about before, trying to really make sure you're focusing in on those delts doing the work, because your back, your biceps, there's a lot of muscles that want to take over for those rear delts. It's just a hard area to focus on. So I would even suggest before you start doing the exercises that you try to really think about, contracting those rear delts as you're doing the different exercises you're going to be performing, as you're going to go through those motions. Make sure you get that down first before you really start adding weight. So with this one, you start here, and then we're trying to come extend and back. And with this one, it's important, you really want to make sure that you pull back as far as you can, and that you're trying to really extend those shoulders as far back as you can. If you're just here, you're not really getting the work that you need, because you need to go and really shorten all the way through if you can. Now the next one, this is more of a position of power for this one, and because we can't really do that full external rotation, we're going to kind of at least get like a supination a little bit, which kind of facilitates a little bit of that external rotation. So this one, we're trying to keep shoulders out to the side if we can, like we talked about before, and as we come up, we're kind of externally rotating or supinating a little bit to kind of get that extra recruitment. So you start here, and then as you come up, you try to really extend, and then you're doing that external rotation or that supination move. So you're coming up, extending, and rotating at the same time. Now this one, if you just pull up like this, you feel it, but I feel like if you really do that twist, you really feel that in the posterior delts. Okay, now this next one I'm going to show you, it's over here at the pulleys. So this one's called the face pull. Now, you also use this one to work your rotator cuff muscles as well. It's a common one that people use for that. I find that it's effective for both. So, if you're really focusing on the rotator cuff, you might want to back down on weight a little bit and focus more on reps. But when you're talking about the posterior delt, you want to try to heavy this up a little bit, as long as you're maintaining good form and you're not doing quite as many reps. So you want to grab the pulley system this way, the tricep rope this way, and you're going to keep kind of a lean back here, and you want to keep this high. You're going to kind of pull the weight off the floor a little bit, and then when you pull back, you want to do the same thing like we did on the incline bench earlier, where you're trying to really come all the way back here as far as you can. So you're trying to really focus on those posterior delts. So you're coming all the way back and then forward. Let's see if I can get a different angle here. So when you're doing this, you're trying to bring those arms all the way back behind you as far as you can, and then forward. And again, you want to make sure you're really contracting just the posterior delts. Okay? Now the last one I'm going to show you is more of a powerful move. It's more of something you want to really load up with weight. So I like the pulley system again for this one. I like using the long bar here because the long bar allows me to get out a little bit wider. I mean, some people try to use just kind of like a bicep bar, tricep bar here, but it's really narrow, and I don't feel like you can get all the way extended the way you want. So you want to get a little bit of a wider bar here, and with this one, I would recommend, again, starting with lightweight to make sure you're getting that posterior delt integration that you want. And sometimes you can even start with just like a single handle and do some with just a single handle to make sure you have it first. But you want to kind of lean back here because you want to kind of pull like almost at an upward position when you do this. So remember, you're still keeping your elbows up so you're not, using the back so much. And with this one too, especially with the higher weight, you got to make sure you're really focusing on the delts and not so much the back and the biceps. So you're coming all the way through to here and then back in, and really squeeze those delts. And if you're doing it right, you'll feel it. So, okay guys, like I said, posterior delts, I think probably the hardest muscle group to really have that mind-muscle connection and really single out. So really make sure you're focusing on it, you practice it before you add the weight.